Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka Murdoch from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. So in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how to learn French from scratch. So if you're learning French, well done. It's a great language to learn and I really want to encourage you to carry on even if it seems a little bit overwhelming at the start. So I've got a separate video, a 40-minute video in which I talk to you in detail about how to learn French from beginner to intermediate. And I share with you all my top techniques and strategies for learning things like vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation. So make sure you check out the link in the description box because that video is really thorough, really detailed. So make sure you check it out. But in this video, I'm going to cover just a few strategies that you can also use to kind of complement your learning. So also another video I want to mention is a video about whether or not French is difficult to learn, and another video which is about reasons to learn French. But because you're here already, you are learning French, so I don't need to convince you any longer. So let's get started. So my first tip for learning French as a beginner from scratch is about vocabulary, because obviously learning a language is all about learning the words that that language includes and the different phrases, and then being able to put those words into logical and grammatically correct sentences. So learning vocabulary is going to be an extremely important part of your journey, especially at the beginning. I would say you should probably focus on vocabulary for maybe 60% of your time. So most of the things that you will be doing is about learning new words and phrases and expressions. And there is a lot of overlap between French and English. So when you approach it that way, you will notice that learning words in French isn't actually as challenging as you thought. So the words that are similar in both languages are called cognates. You can just Google French-English cognates and you will see lists of hundreds, if not thousands of words that are similar to each other in both languages. So for example, there are adjectives such as intéressant, which means interesting, or difficile, which means difficult. And there are verbs such as préparer, which means to prepare, or continuer, which means to continue. And then there are obviously nouns which are similar in both languages, such as animal, which means animal, dictionnaire, which means dictionary, or finance, which means finance. So you can see that there are many similarities between the two languages. There are obviously false friends, like in any language, so you need to watch out for that. So I talk about specific techniques for learning French vocabulary in my video that I mentioned to you at the start. It's a 40-minute video. I've included the link down below, so make sure you check it out. My second tip for learning French from scratch is about French word order in sentences. So French follows the same word order in sentences as English. So it's subject, verb, object. So for example, in English you say he speaks French, he being the subject, speaks being the verb, and French being the object. In French, that's il parle français. So il is he, which is the subject, parle is the verb, to speak, and français is the object, which means French. So that's quite easy to remember, and it makes you, maybe when you know that, it makes you more confident about building sentences in French. Here's another example. J'habite en France, which means I live in France. Je is I, the subject. Habite is live, which is the verb. And en France is the object, which means in France. You will notice that the word je is sort of abbreviated. There is an apostrophe between the J and the verb habite, and that's because when there's a vowel or a silent H at the start of a verb in French, the je gets kind of attached to the verb and the E disappears and you've got an apostrophe instead. So that's one kind of little thing to remember as well. The next thing about French is making negative sentences. So, like I said, learning any language, including French, is all about being able to put new words into sentences. So now you know that the word order is quite straightforward. It's subject, verb, object for affirmative sentences. But if you want to create a negative sentence, it's also very straightforward. So all you need to do is you need to use the construction ne pas, which you kind of wrap around the verb. So for example, I gave you an example before, which was il parle français, he speaks French. If you want to make this into a negative sentence, so he doesn't speak French, in French you just use ne in front of the verb and pas after the verb. So il ne parle pas français. And that basically means he doesn't speak French. Here's another example. Cet homme semble triste. This man seems sad. If you want to turn this into a negative sentence, you need to wrap the ne pas negative construction around the verb semble. So, cet homme ne semble pas triste. This man doesn't seem sad. So it's quite easy, isn't it? So making questions in French is equally straightforward. There are two different ways in which you can make a question, and that's through inversion or through adding the phrase est-ce. So if you want to create a question through inversion, all you need to do is invert the subject and the verb. For example, in the sentence tu parles allemand, you speak German, you need to invert the order of tu and parle, which is the subject and the verb. So the question would be, parles-tu allemand? And you insert a little hyphen between them when it becomes a question. So, parles-tu allemand means, do you speak German? So the second way to create a question is to add the phrase est-ce in front of the sentence without inverting anything. So, tu parles allemand becomes, est-ce que tu parles allemand? Do you speak German? So it's easy, isn't it? So now you know how to create sentences in French. You need a subject, a verb, and an object. You know how to make them negative. You wrap the phrase ne pas around your verb. And you know how to create questions, which is either through inverting the subject and the verb or through adding the phrase est-ce que in front of your sentence. The next thing you will need to know when you're learning French as a beginner is genders and agreements. So every noun in French has a gender. It's either feminine or masculine. For example, the noun voiture, which means a car, is feminine. So it takes a feminine article, une or la. So either a car or the car. Une voiture, la voiture. So the gender of the noun is very important because different parts of the sentence will need to agree with it. Not just the article, like I just said to you, une and la, but also things like adjectives. So for example, when you want to say a small car, you need to make sure that your adjective, small, is also feminine. So the word small in French is petit, but if you want to make it feminine, you need to add an e at the end, so it becomes petite. So if you want to say a small car, you need to say une petite voiture. But if you want to say a small boy, which is masculine, you would say un petit garçon. So there wouldn't be an e at the end of petit. So like I said at the start of this video, I don't want to go into too much detail because I've got this other video which is 40 minutes long and it contains lots of detail about how to learn French all the way from beginner to intermediate. So make sure you check it out. The link is in the description box and I hope you will enjoy the tips I shared there and here as well. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and give this video a like and comment about where you are with French and how it's going. And I'll see you next time. Bye!